first couple of plays from over the weekend, Oregon lost a thriller to Auburn. But for the Ducks, Justin Herbert found Spencer Webb for the Knights grab, then makes like Allen Iverson with a little step over.
That was a much better throw than Justin Herbert, than maybe the worst Hail Mary that's ever been thrown in the history of
Did it go in the stands?
I mean, that would have been out of the back of a CFL end zone, but this is a great little just bully ball right there. Get off me, son.
Just go up
13.
Push him down to the ground.
Look out
That's
for
a
a second.
step on him. That's disrespectful.
That's going to be disrespectful in the film room when you watch that on the defensive end.
Indiana Ball State, the Cardinals'
no.
Justin Hall taking the reverse.
I don't remember you doing a lot of that.
No.
Little casual hurdle.
It's all fun and games. You get down BB.
When you have the ball in your hand, the last thing you want to do is leave your feet for this long. That's a great jump, but wow. That's
Ball
scary,
State.
scary landing.
Fighting Jason Whitlock's out there, pulling off her high hurdles. I don't know if my man Whitlock could pull off the high hurdle, but I know he was happy with this play.
Didn't David Letterman go
Can
there?
he get off the ground?
Eastern Washington Huskies, Zarin Fuller making the one-handed catch with the ballerina toe tap. Nice touchdown.
That's what you want to see out of your wide receiver. Those are the things that flash the NFL teams. Can a guy go up and get it in the end zone? Most important play in the NFL is going to get the football. Love that right there.
And that's a great college football touchdown.
That's right.
Because in the NFL, obviously, it don't count. But in college, it does. That's spectacular.
It doesn't get much better than that.
If my man Chris Carter's out here, he'd be talking about them gloves, man. It ain't the gloves, it's the kids.
On to the Seahawks now. And the trade that shook up the NFL on Saturday, Seattle acquiring former first overall pick and three-time Pro Bowl defensive end Jadeveon Clowney from the Texans. The Seahawks, in return, give Houston a third-round pick and 2 players. I will let you decide the winners and losers of this one. Let's ask the defensive expert on our set. Bart, who's the best team in the NFC West, the Seahawks or the Rams?
I'm still going to go with the Rams. I mean, they're still explosive on offense. I still get a lot of concern about their ability to protect Russell Wilson, who I think was sacked the third most last year by anybody, if I check my data right here. He was sacked 51 times last year. You know, Russell Okung has, I believe, blood clot, so he's not going to be available. So that means a lot of Russell Wilson handing the ball off. Last year, I believe they ran the ball more than anybody in the league. They have Schottenheimer, who was with me, so I know how he can get as far as running the ball over and over again. They're going to have to win ugly. They're going to have to win ugly. That's why I think adding Jadeveon Clowney gives them a better chance, because they're going to have to win those grind out 1 or 2 possessions, beat you in the third quarter, beat you down type of games. Russell Wilson's going to have to run around and be magical early in the season.
Well, I think the Rams probably are still the best team in the division. You have a team that saw last year you can't run Todd Gurley into the ground early on in the season. Then if you do that, you won't be able to use him in the latter stages of the season when they needed him to be effective. Yeah, at all. And so they needed him at that point. I think they'll be much more smart about that. I think Jared Goff matures another year. I think this team, the Rams, they still score a bunch of points. Now, on the other side,
Cooper Kupp coming back, too.
Yeah, they're getting the receivers back. I mean, they're in a good position. When you look at the Seattle Seahawks, defensively, they're nasty. They can get after you. Bobby Wagner, I believe he's probably the best linebacker in the league. He does a lot of things that linebackers just aren't able to do. He's physical, he's fast, he can cover a lot of ground. I think when you add Clowney, this just puts that defense over the top. I think he's an edge rusher. He's an elite edge rusher. He can stop the run as well. All good things for the Seahawks. I still don't think they're better than the Rams, though.
I had the Seahawks winning the division before this trade. I obviously love this trade for the Seahawks' perspective. They get Jadeveon Clowney. Even if you think he's not #1 overall pick worthy at this point in his career, he is a guy who has proven to be a I would say very good, you would probably just say good NFL player. And to get him for a third-round pick, that doesn't cost you anything this year.
Right.
Mingo, who was going to get cut, according to the reports in Seattle, and one other inside linebacker is a theft. You think about it. For Frank Clark, you can say he's better than Clowney, but set it aside, not drastically so. For Frank Clark, they got from Kansas City a first and a second. They replace him with that first-round pick. They draft L.J. Collier, a defensive end, a pass rusher. They bring in Clowney and essentially move up in the draft. They bring in Ziggy Ansah. That front seven, all of a sudden, Ziggy Ansah, Jadeveon Clowney, whatever you get from the rookie, oh yeah, KJ Wright, and oh yeah, maybe the best inside linebacker in football, Bobby Wagner. Then on the other side of the ball, what you have is, I think, the most underrated quarterback in football, Russell Wilson, a top 5 quarterback each and every year, even though nobody talks about him that way. Now, this side of Jacksonville, they might have the worst receiving core in football. Yeah. The loss of Doug Baldwin's big. Tyler Lockett was spectacular for them last year, but it's Tyler Lockett and a bunch of rookies, bunch of question marks. But I think the Rams take a massive step back this year. You mentioned Todd Gurley on a pitch count. Last year, they're 11-0 when he has 15 or more carries, 2-4 when he has less than 15 carries. Who is Todd Gurley going to be this year? How good is Jared Goff now that the Patriots seem to expose he and the Sean McVay scheme at least a little bit? Not a ton, but at least a little bit. And I think Seattle, since Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson been together, their worst year was 2 years ago, 9-7. Last year was year 2 of the rebuild. Went 10-6 and made the playoffs. I don't know why people expect them to go backwards from there, even though they lost Baldwin. You mentioned the offensive line. They still have Dwayne Brown, who's been very good. A guy that, by the way, is so fun. The Texans, the whole offensive line problem started when they traded Dwayne Brown to Seattle because they didn't like Dwayne Brown's politics down in Houston. So they gave him away for pennies on the dollar, and now they've been trying to fix that mess ever since. But Clowney, I think he's going to be spectacular for Seattle. I think he's going to be more to his natural position, not a 3-4 outside backer, 4-3 defensive end, better player, well, better system around him. Can't say better players, doesn't have J.J. Watt around him, and contract year. They agreed as part of this trade to not franchise him again, so he knows he's going to be a true unrestricted free agent next year. I think Clowney's going to be unleashed. I think he's going to have his first double-digit sack season, which I know you're big on the fact that he hasn't had one. I think Seattle's going to win 11 games and win the division.
The question for Seattle is, can they outscore the Rams? That's the big question. Can they score enough, or can their defense be good enough to slow the Rams down? Make it a 20, 25-point game.
Cooper Kupp, you're underrating Cooper Kupp and what he brings. I mean, he's a slot catching machine. He's a guy
that was ACL last year. And
he can catch 100. He can catch 100 balls from the slot, and I mean, he's Jared Goff's outlet. So I think maybe they spread it out a little bit more, and they use a lot less of Gurley and really go through Goff. Remember, they're talking to him 15 seconds within the clock, so they're giving him the answers to the test before. A guy like Cooper Kupp helps you win a lot more.
Are you sold on Goff? I know you're not as sold. CC is sold. Are you not?
No, I'm not. Anytime that, at some point you got to learn how to read the safeties, the inversion of the safeties post-snap, and I feel like they still have the training wheels on them. That says a lot about him because they haven't given him the keys to the car. He's still riding with the driver's training guy.
Last year, there were teams that were able to slow them down by saying, we're just going to drop back and play zone, and Jared Goff had to be disciplined enough to take the checks down, the smaller, the shorter plays. He wasn't disciplined enough to do that, especially latter part of the season. This year, he has to learn that. I think Sean McVay and that offense, they learned that this year.
To your point, just real quick, the one thing Goff has going for him, in the NFC, the Rams might have the best receiving core. Cooks, Woods, Robert Woods came out this week and said, I think I'm the most complete receiver in the NFL. So Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, all three guys exactly know their roles. Seattle might have the worst receiving core in the NFC, as we just talked about. So in that regard, the Rams have a decided advantage. The other, I don't think...
So you just talked yourself out of it.
No. I was just making the devil's advocate point. I don't think they have a coach. I really like Sean McVay. He's not Pete Carroll. The best coach.
They have Wade Phillips.
The best coach-quarterback combination in that division is in Seattle, and with the addition of Clowney, I wonder if the best defense in that division all of a sudden might be in Seattle as well.
Aaron Donald, bad.
Aaron Donald and a bunch of other guys.
Coming up, will Aaron Rodgers continue to dominate for another 10 years? He thinks so. Next on First Things First.
Got some thugs at corner.